This Parsha podcast is dedicated in loving memory of Esther Bat Avraham, who passed away recently. May her soul be elevated in heaven. I have to say, I was shocked. I was shocked, and I was blindsided. You see, last week, I got a few phone calls and text messages. People were wishing me happy birthday, but I was shocked. I was blindsided. It can't possibly be true, because my birthday is in December, and the year kind of just started. There's no way we're in December quite yet. But I checked the calendar, and it turns out they were right. Yeah, it's already December. It's already the end of the Gregorian calendar. And I think we can safely say that it's been a fantastic, wonderful, delightful, joyous, productive year here on the Parsha podcast. With the help of the Almighty, I don't think we've missed even a single week. Every week we get together and we learn and we expand our knowledge and we deepen our connection with the Almighty's Holy Torah from the Torah Center in Houston, Texas. What an amazing accomplishment. And I want to bring you a little bit behind the scenes. You know, we're going backstage. This is year 10 of the Parsha podcast. We're going backstage, the Parsha backstage. I want to bring you a bit backstage here at Torch. Long-time friends and listeners know that we have a bit of a different philosophy when it comes to raising funds for Torch. I don't like asking you for money every week or every month. We do this one big fundraiser in the first quarter of the year, and we try to compress all of our fundraising into one big campaign. And hopefully that will cover us for the entire year. And that's been the system for almost a decade now. Now this year, it's been a bit of a weaker fundraising year than previously. And if we want to make sure that all the rabbis are paid up before the end of the year, we need to raise somewhere between $75,000 and $100,000. What is it that you say? Some of the rabbis are owed money? Yes, that's true. And that's, I have to say, it's kind of the nature of the beast. Our organization, we don't have like a membership. We don't charge for any of our programs. And we have a fairly significant set of expenses. So if you sign up to work for Torch, first of all, welcome aboard. But second of all, you have to know that we're not just swimming in funds, and the rabbis all know, and they understand this, that sometimes you may be paid late. And thank God, with the help of the Almighty, we're almost at 30 years since the inception of Torch. We started in 1998, so that means, I guess, 2028 will be the 30th anniversary. And with the exception of some current obligations, everyone's paid up. But people are being paid late, and unfortunately, there are even some paychecks from 2024 that have not yet been paid. And the truth is, this is really backstage. One of our big donors stepped up and cut a very large check to help take a massive chunk out of our hole, to make sure that the brilliant light of Torch burns brightly. But we still need a little bit to make sure that everyone gets paid up before the year ends. When you listen to other podcasts, they're always telling you, rate the show, subscribe, review, share it with a friend. I don't like doing that. You know, I feel like I have a limited amount of requests I can make from you. And I make only one that really matters. I know that if everyone who listens and everyone who enjoys makes a donation, gives what they can, we'll survive. And if not, we won't survive. So I don't like to ask you for other things. This is what I asked you for, and that's it. You want to rate, subscribe, review, share a friend. It's cherished. It's appreciated. It means so much to me. But this is the one thing that we need. And now I want to tell you that we're in a bit of a crunch, a bit of a bind. And you know, I have friends who go into similar industries, similar organizations and roles that that we're in over here, and I have a lot of friends who were working on behalf of the Jewish people, teaching Torah, doing outreach, all these wonderful things similar to what we're doing here at Torch. And many, 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 many of them left and are selling mortgages, working in nursing homes. Not that there's anything wrong with that, but we have to realize this is a fragile entity. This is not an easy organization, an easy profession to run, to maintain. So I asked you for one donation a year, and I'm asking you a little extra December request to help us make sure all the rabbis get paid up before the year ends. So if you've yet to support the great work of Torch in 2025, now's the perfect time. It'll help make sure that everyone gets paid up before the year ends. And if you have already given, thank you so much. You're a friend. You're a supporter. You're a partner in everything that we do. And if you would consider maybe just giving us a little extra nudge, that too will be tremendously appreciated and cherished. And I will say, maybe this is one of the reasons why it was a bit of a tough year. So, like a year and a half ago, we moved. The Torch Center moved. The previous place was flooded. It's a long story. We moved into a new place, which just happens to be a facility that was previously owned by a UPS store. So they were getting a fire hose of mail, and then we switched it, and for some reason, a lot of the mail just doesn't go through. And many, many, many people have told me, I keep on sending you guys mail. I send you a check, and it comes back to me a week later. So we decided to actually get a post office box. Isn't that old school? It's so old school. I love it. We have a post office box just to make sure that if someone wants to send us a check or anything else, it'll come to us and will be sent back to you in the mail, unable to deliver to sender. If you had a check that you sent it to Torch in 2025 and it was sent back to you, please consider sending it to the post office box. Or, of course, you can always make a donation on the website, torchweb.org. You want to know the post office box number? P.O. Box 310246. We're going to have this written down on the website, and I'll put it on the podcast as well. And that's Houston, Texas, 77231-0246. I know this is fascinating podcast to listen to me saying the numbers of the P.O. box, but I'll have it written down. But please, God, we'll be able to make sure that we'll enter 2026 with a fresh, clean slate, everyone paid up and ready to tackle the new year together from the Torch Center in Houston, Texas. Again, the website is torchweb.org. You find that in every single podcast that I release. It has that written down. We're also going to include now the post office box as well. It's going to be on the website and it's going to be on the podcast. So much for that. Let's talk about the Parsha. Parshas Vayeishev. In our Parsha, we are launched headlong into the saga of Joseph. Joseph is Jacob's son from his favorite wife, Rachel, and he's Jacob's favorite son. And he is the Ben Zekunim. He's the son of a young age. Our sages tell us they look the same. He taught him all of his Torah. Jacob makes him a special tunic. Did Jacob do the right thing? The Talmud says no, he made a mistake in showing favoritism. A person should never show favoritism to one son over the other sons. Jacob favors Joseph. The brothers are envious of Joseph. He has this special tunic that they don't have, and the brothers hate him. And that, of course, ultimately led, the Talmud tells us, to him being sold as a slave, and to the entire Jewish people, the entire family of Jacob, descending to Egypt. Favoritism is dangerous. The brothers hate Joseph, and their hatred deepens when he slanders them to their father. And their hatred of Joseph deepens further when he shares his dreams of dominion, his megalomaniacal dreams. I'm bundling bundles, and you're bundling bundles, and your bundles bow down to my bundles. You will be subjugated to me. In the second dream, the sun and the moon and the 11 stars, he tells his brothers, are bowing before me, as if to signify the father, the mother, and the 11 brothers will bow before him. Their hatred of Joseph is so complete that they cannot find anything positive, anything redeeming about Joseph. And then Joseph is betrayed in the most severe fashion by his brothers. Jacob sends Joseph on a wellness check. Go see how your brothers are doing, how the flock currently grazing in Shechem are doing. And he sends him. He sends him from the valley of Hebron, from Emet Hebron. And Rashi tells us, wait a minute, Hebron, it's a mountain. It's not a valley. So Rashi explains that this is from the deepest part of the legacy and destiny of he who was buried in Hebron. Of course, Abram is buried in Hebron, And there's this deep plan. God told Abraham in the covenant of the parts, chapter 15 of Genesis, that your descendants will be enslaved and tormented and oppressed in a foreign land. And here is the beginning of that. And this is a very deep storyline. And therefore it's presented in the Torah as the depths, the valleys of Hebron, because this is the deep divine plan to fulfill the promise made to Abraham, who's buried in Hebron. Joseph goes to Shechem. He's looking for his brothers. He doesn't find them right away. He arrives, and the brothers have moved on. And we read a fascinating exchange. Chapter 37, verse 15. Vayimtza'ehu ish, and a man finds him. And he's just wandering in the field. He's looking for his brothers. Vayishalehu ha'ish, and the man asks Joseph, Ma tevakesh, what are you looking for? Rashi tells us this man is no man. This man is the angel Gabriel. And Joseph responds, Es achai anochi mevakesh. I'm looking for my brothers. Tell me where they are. Where are they pasturing? And the man, the angel, responds, They have departed from here. I heard them saying they're going to Dosan. So Joseph follows their trail, and he finds them in Dosan. It's a fascinating anecdote. Joseph, he's going to inspect on his brothers, and he doesn't find them. And the man whom we learn is the angel Gabriel. He tells him, what are you looking for? And the commentaries actually observe that there's a textual, scriptural anomaly here. In chapter 37, verse 15, a man finds him, and behold, Joseph is wandering in the field. Vayishalehu ha'ish, and the man asked him, Lay mar, saying, Matavakesh. The word lay mar in the Torah is a very common phrase in the Torah. God tells Moshe, lay mar, to say over. The word lay mar always means to repeat. And that word seems to be inappropriate in this context. The man asked him, what are you looking for? That made sense. The man asked him to say over what you're looking for. That seems a bit odd. And the commentaries tell us something very profound, and it's a very valuable lesson. A very profound and valuable lesson. Joseph is about to have a very unpleasant experience. He's about to be disrobed of his special tunic. He's about to be betrayed by his brothers. He's about to be, initially they wanted to kill him, throw him in the pit teeming with snakes and scorpions. He's going to be sold as a slave. He's going to be away from his father, away from his family for 22 long years. Now, Joseph doesn't know that. He's not aware of any of that. There's this angel. And the angel is going to tell Joseph something very important. And he's going to tell him, what are you looking for? Matavakesh. Joseph is being shoved, expelled from the safe confines of his family, of his home, of his community, of his people, of his co-religionists. And he's being sent into the most treacherous and fearsome of places. And he's going to have to endure tremendous challenges, physical challenges, but of course, chiefly spiritual challenges. And God sends him an angel. And the angel asked similar question, what are you looking for? What are you seeking? What are you after? But the verse is structured in a way that the angel tells him, Lamar, to say, what are you looking for? The angel is giving him instructions. There's something you must say. You want to survive what you're about to experience? You want to endure the time spent in Egypt? Say this over. What should you say? Ma tevatesh. What do you want? You must constantly be asking the question, what am I after? What am I seeking? That's the question you must say and say over and say over and say over again. How do you survive in the most depraved society in the world? How is Joseph going to maintain his standing? As a prince? As a founder of a tribe of Israel? As the continuation of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob? When he's going to be in the cesspool of spiritual squalor? The angel tells him what to do. Say and repeat. Ma tevatesh. What am I seeking? What do I actually want? This is the way to survive in the cesspool of Egypt. In every situation in life, in every temptation that you're faced in life, ask the question, what do I want? What will this bring me towards? Ma tevatesh. With that encounter with the angel concluded, Joseph is approaching his brothers. And they see him. Here comes the dreamer. Let's kill him. And then we'll see what happens with his dreams. The brothers decided that it was appropriate to kill Joseph. And Reuven intervenes. We can't kill him. Let's throw him into the pit. And they take him and they remove his tunic and they throw him to the pit, according to our sages, teeming with snakes and scorpions. Reuven intervenes. Judah intervenes. And he says, let's not kill him. Let's not even cause him to get killed. Let's sell him as a slave. And indeed, they extract Joseph from the pit and they sell him. Joseph is sold multiple times and is eventually bought by Potiphar, the minister of Pharaoh. And the brothers take the tunic and they dunk it in blood and they bring it to Jacob. They're giving him the impression, we found it. Do you recognize this? And Jacob responds, this is Joseph's. He must have been savaged by a wild animal. Jacob was plunged into a state of depression, into forlorn melancholy. He's inconsolable for the next 22 years until he's informed, oh, Yosef Chai, Joseph is still alive. He's a king in Egypt. Until that point, Jacob is not himself. And the Parsha segues to tell the saga of Judah and Tamar, chapter 38 of Genesis. We pause with the story of Joseph and we focus on Judah. Vayeishev, it was at that time. And Judah descended from his brothers. And he meets this person, he marries this woman, and he has this family. And Rashi tells us, why are we interjecting in the story of Joseph and his saga, the story of Judah? So Rashi tells us, because these stories are connected. Judah was a leader amongst his brothers. And when they witnessed the terrible suffering that Jacob was having over what happened to Joseph, they blamed Judah. Judah, you told us to sell him. If you would have told us to return him to Jacob, to his father, we would have listened. And therefore, Judah descended. He was demoted from his brothers. And he left, so to speak, the area where the family of Jacob was living. And we follow his story. He gets married. He has 3 sons, Onan, and Shelah. And his son gets married to a woman named Tamar. But is sinful. He refuses to attempt to impregnate his wife. Instead, he spills his seed, and he dies. And then the second son, Onan, he marries his brother's widow. He marries Tamar. This is a precursor of the Torah concept of yibum, of levirate marriage. But Onan is equally sinful, and he too dies. And Judah is left with only one son. And Judah's wife also dies. He has one family member left, his son Shelah, his surviving son Shelah. And of course, Tamar is expecting to marry him. 3rd time's the charm, of course. But Judah's not so keen on that. This woman is bad luck. Let's send her home. He doesn't want to tell her that, of course. So he says, well, Shelah's young. I'll send you a message when it's time for you to marry him. Tamar goes home. The message, of course, never arrives, and she takes drastic action. She's so desirous of bearing a child with this illustrious family. She does something very unexpected and bold. Maybe you would argue a bit reckless. She takes her widow garments, she shelves them, puts them away. She dresses like a prostitute. And she seduces Judah himself. And they spend time together. And Judah's not aware that he's spending time with his daughter-in-law, Tamar. And she becomes pregnant. And she, of course, asks for payment for her services. I'll pay you tomorrow. Give me some collateral. Your walking staff, your special cloak, your signet ring. She pockets those items. She goes back to her father's home. She once again dons the garments of the widow. Judah wants to collect his items, wants to pay the prostitute. She's gone. And of course, 3 months later, we got bad news. Tamar, your daughter-in-law, she's pregnant. She must have conceived out of wedlock. And she's still connected to the family of Judah because, after all, this levirate marriage responsibility is still open. There's a trial. And of all people, Judah is presiding over the trial of his own daughter-in-law, who's pregnant, unbeknownst to him, with his children. And all the evidence points to her guilt, and she's going to be punished. And she sends a message to the judge, to her father-in-law, the man who owns this walking stick, this garment, this signet ring. He's the real father. Judah recognizes what happens. It hits him. She was the prostitute that he consorted with. She was actually supposed to marry someone from this family. Her husband died without children. And she did it in, albeit an unconventional manner. In front of everyone, Judah admits, Tzadka mimeni, she is more righteous than me. I'm the real father. Tamar is spared the punishment. And indeed, chapter 38 ends. She bears twins, Zerach and Peretz. And then the Parsha returns to the main narrative. Joseph is born by Potiphar, the minister of Pharaoh, and he displays such aptitude as a slave. He's given all the power in the home, in the household of this minister. And then he's targeted by Mrs. Potiphar. Mrs. Potiphar, the wife of his master, she lusts for him. And he's rebuffing her. But she's persistent. And one day, she corners him and snatches off his garments. And he runs, he flees. And then she turns the table on him and says, "Oh, look what this person tried to do to me." She accuses him of coming after her. And Joseph, hated by his brothers. Joseph betrayed by his brothers, Joseph sold as a slave, is now imprisoned. The Talmud tells us, very interesting, this is cited by Rashi, that there is at least one opinion that says that Joseph was just an inch away from yielding, from capitulating, from giving in to the seductions. And he's about to give in, and the visage of his father appeared to him in the window. And this hologram, this visage, this countenance of his father that's in the window told him, Joseph, recognize what you're about to do. In the future, my family will be a nation, and we will have a high priest. And the high priest will have garments. And on the garments, it says the names of my 12 sons. And right now, you're included amongst that list. But if you do what you're about to do, you will be removed. You will be erased. Instead, you will be ridiculed as a patron of harlots. Joseph was about to capitulate. And he has this vivid image of his father. And that allowed him to think rationally and clearly, to regain his composure and to overcome the temptation. But unfortunately, he is reduced yet further. He's in prison. And he's there for years, languishing in an Egyptian prison. This is not a Norwegian prison with Netflix and chefs to make you food. This is not even an American prison with cable TV. This is an Egyptian dungeon. And even in prison, Joseph rises to the top. He's the warden's right-hand man. He oversees the prison. And after many, many years, a decade, we're told, of incarceration, he gets some cellmates. 2 disgraced ministers of Pharaoh, the butler and the baker. And one day they each have a bothered look on their face. Oh, I had a terrible dream, very disturbing. Joseph interprets it. He tells the butler, I have very good news for you. In 3 days, it's Pharaoh's birthday, and he will reinstate you. He'll restore you to your post. And to the baker, he shares the very unfortunate news that in 3 days, on Pharaoh's birthday, Pharaoh will sever your head from your body. You have 3 days to prepare for your decapitation. It must have been quite a nerve-wracking 72 hours, you imagine, for the baker. And then Joseph pleaded with the butler. Tell Pharaoh about my plight. I was sold by my family. I'm from the land of Canaan. I was framed for a crime I didn't commit. I don't belong here. Maybe you can use your clout with Pharaoh to get me out of this place. Indeed, on Pharaoh's birthday, he beheads the baker, he reinstates the butler, and the Parsha ends with the butler not only not remembering Joseph, but actively forgetting him and allowing him to languish in the dungeon, in the prison, for 2 more years. Our Parsha, it's 2 narratives. The first, the principal narrative, is the animus and the enmity that the brothers had for Joseph. And tucked in the middle of the 2 parts of the Joseph story is the episode of Judah and his daughter-in-law, Tamar. Now, when you zoom out and you read about the epilogues of these stories, you discover that these twin narratives are actually origin stories of 2 monarchies, of 2 kings. Of course, the family of Jacob is still a family now. But these people are the progenitors of the Jewish nation. The nation that will be enslaved in Egypt, experience the Exodus, experience Mount Sinai, enter the land, and ultimately bring the world towards its perfection. And in this nation, there are 2 families of kings. Judah, and Joseph. Of course, in the Torah itself, spoiler alert, Joseph, who's right now in the dungeon, he's going to emerge and be crowned as viceroy of Egypt, as second in command. He's actually going to be called king of Egypt. Joseph himself, in the most improbable twist of events, is going to be elevated from the dungeon all the way to the absolute top. He's going to become king. Now, Judah doesn't become a king in his lifetime, but Judah becomes the tribe and thus the progenitor of the monarchy of the Jewish people. So if Joseph was a king in Egypt, Judah will become the king in Israel and in Judah. Ever since the second king of Israel, King David, of course, from the tribe of Judah, a direct descendant of Judah, there's been no legitimate kings of our people who are not from that family, from the tribe of Judah, from the family of David, David and Solomon. All the kings of Judah, they were all from this line, from this family. And this line, by the way, is still extant today. We're hoping for the revealing of the next great king from this family, from this tribe. Of course, that's King Messiah. So there's two families of the kings of the nation, Judah and Joseph. And the truth is, even Messiah, there's two Messiahs. Messiah from the family of David, Messiah ben David from the tribe of Judah, and there's Messiah ben Joseph. And in this week's Parsha, we read the origin story of these two illustrious royal families. What is the backstory of David? What is the backstory of Joseph's ascent to the monarchy? It's this unusual story, this saga. He's hated. He's reviled by his brothers. He's sold as a slave. He's imprisoned. He's accused of a crime that he is innocent of. And when our Parsha ends, we don't know how it's going to finish. We only discover next week that all of those events that happened to Joseph were all needed to position him to rise to the top. All of that darkness was needed to reveal the brilliant light of Joseph. Now, David, king of Israel, his story also begins here. Judah, unwittingly, he consorts with his daughter-in-law Tamar. He impregnates her. Mazel tov, she has twins. One of them is Peretz. And Peretz's son is Chetzron, whose son is Ram, whose son is Aminadav, whose son is Nachshon, whose son is Salma, whose son is Boaz, whose son is Obed, whose son is Yishai, Jesse, whose son is David. So 9 generations after this scandalous, or at least highly unconventional union of Judah and his daughter-in-law, emerges David, king of Israel, known as Mashiach Hashem, the Messiah of God. So in our Parsha, it's the backstory of Messiah. So we have 2 Messiahs and 2 families of kings, and both of those backstories, both of those origin stories, are being told in our Parsha. And if you read our Parsha and you know nothing beyond it, you would never imagine in your wildest imagination sessions that this is the backstory of the greatest people that we've had, the greatest leaders that we've had. No human, at least at the time, knew that these are stories, unlikely stories of coronation. And not just of kings, but of the greatest kings of them all, David, Solomon, Messiah, of both flavors. So our Parsha is the first part of the story. Only God knows where it's heading. Joseph in our Parsha, he's hated. He's hated to such a degree that the brothers cannot say anything positive about him. They can't say anything good about him. And then for a second they entertain to kill him. They throw him into the pit. They sell him as a slave. He's accused of a crime that he's innocent of. He's imprisoned. And the Parsha ends with the last level, he's forgotten. His one hope to get out vanishes. Now, of course, we know that if any one of those steps were not in place, there's no way he could have been coronated. If he wasn't hated, if he wasn't sold, if he wasn't imprisoned, if he wasn't forgotten, he couldn't have become King Joseph. Judah, he's demoted. His wife dies. His children die. He's duped into this dalliance with what turns to be his daughter-in-law. And he has to publicly admit it. And he's now the father of twins that emerged into the world in the most scandalous, ignoble fashion. And only once you see the bigger picture, you zoom out a few hundred years, only then can you identify that the seeds of Messiah, the seeds of the kingdom, are being sown here. Now, when you examine these two stories, the one thing that jumps out at you is the profiles and courage here of both Joseph and Judah. You think about the state of Judah. He's in the dumps. He's demoted by his brothers. Two of his sons die. His wife dies. And he's seduced by this prostitute. And then at the court case where he is the judge, he is the authority. He's an important person. And according to the Midrash, by the way, both Isaac and Jacob were present. Even though, of course, the passing of Isaac is told earlier in the Torah, in the storyline, he's still alive. They're both present. His father, the most illustrious, important people are there. And he's faced with a choice. Admit that he is the quote-unquote guilty party, or preserve his dignity. Just think about the shame. He convenes the court, he supervises the court, and now in front of everyone he has to admit that he's actually the guilty party. And it would be so easy for him to say, ma'am, I don't know who owns that walking staff and that signet ring and that cloak, or how you got it. It's immaterial. You're guilty. This was a heroic moment for Judah. And indeed, if he yielded to his impulse to avoid shame, there would never be a Messiah. Joseph is also a profile in courage. Had Joseph capitulated to Mrs. Potiphar, he wouldn't have been imprisoned. He wouldn't have met the butler and the baker. He would not have become king of Egypt. He would not be the progenitor of Messiah ben Joseph. And he wouldn't even be allowed to remain as an upstanding member of the family of Jacob. He would have been like the Esav of that generation. They would have disgraced him as the patron of the prostitutes. His name would be expunged from the garments of the high priest. We don't find Esav mentioned in the temple anywhere. He would have been Esav, the pariah, the one with so much potential, who squandered it all. So there's twin narratives here. And we see this overlapping attribute of heroism, of strength, of character. But there's more to it. Both storylines are scandalous and completely unexpected. Joseph becomes king, yes, sure, but it's this crazy, circuitous, painful, and unfortunate path to get there. Hated by his brothers, betrayed by his brothers, sold as a slave by his brothers, brought down in chains to Egypt, and then he's accused of this crime, and he goes from hated to being sold to being imprisoned to being forgotten by the butler, and only after all of that, and indeed because of all of that, only thanks to all of that, only then did he become king. Joseph is viewed as unremarkable, as expendable by his own brothers. No one saw his emergence as king coming. And that's his Parsha. There's going to be a reunion. The brothers are going to be standing in front of Joseph, and they're looking for Joseph. And they know that Joseph told them, you will bow before me. And they're bowing before a king who, by the way, is a spitting image of Jacob. And it's actually Joseph. And no one considered the fact that maybe, just maybe, this is Joseph. In their mind, Joseph, he has no chance of becoming someone great. If you were the odds maker, imagine the beginning of the Parsha, or even at the end of the Parsha, what are the odds that Joseph becomes king of Egypt? A system that was notoriously hierarchical. It did not reward meritocracy, and he's an outsider, and he's a slave, and he's a convicted felon, and he's unadmired by his own family. There's effectively a 0% chance that Joseph will become king. His emergence is a surprise. His emergence is unexpected. His emergence is completely hidden from human visibility. The backstory of Messiah is also inauspicious, also a surprise, also unexpected. No one would have thought that Judah's interaction with the woman, presumed to be a prostitute, would spawn the progenitor of Messiah. It's scandalous, it's unexpected. Put on your odds maker cap again. Think about what Tamar did here. What percentage likelihood would you give to Tamar's cockamamie plan working? I really want to have a child from this family. What's my solution? Try to seduce Judah? It's an outrageously inconceivable plan. Totally scandalous. And this is how the origins of Messiah happened. And of course, we know it's not just Judah and Tamar. Many of the unions that serve as forebears of Messiah are quite uncomfortably scandalous. So, of course, we know the story of Lot and his daughters. That's where Ruth came from. And Ruth and Boaz, that too is part of the paternity of David. And David and Bathsheba himself. That brought about Solomon. Very scandalous. And I've said this before, many years ago. I'll say it again. David himself was presumed to be illegitimate. And the reason why is because Jesse didn't want to spend time with his wife. He sent her away. And the reason why he sent her away is because he was a descendant of Ruth, and Ruth was a Moabite, and at that time, it was not yet decided conclusively that a female Moabite convert is legitimate, and only a male Moabite convert is illegitimate. And therefore, at the time, in times of Jesse, he thought that he himself was illegitimate. So he didn't want to spend time with his wife. And his plan, and this is a little confusing, his plan was to consort with his maidservant. And that child would not be Jewish, and they would convert, and therefore, that's the workaround. It's a little complicated. It's a little messy, but there is a workaround. If someone is illegitimate, there's a way for them to have children that are legitimate. It might be a violation of international law, but that was his plan. Anyhow, the maidservant told the rightful wife of Jesse, your husband wants to spend the night with me. And with that information, Mrs. Jesse impersonated the maidservant and snuck in her stead and became pregnant. And Jesse was unaware, just as Judah was unaware who he was with, he was unaware that he was actually spending the night with his wife. And what do you know? His wife is pregnant. This must be an illegitimate bastard, because he didn't spend any time with her. And when David was born, they wanted to kill him. Jesse said, we can't kill him because then he'll claim that the other kids are also illegitimate. Okay. But they treated him like a slave. And only once the prophet Samuel came, I'm going to coronate one of the sons of Jesse. And of course, David's certainly not a candidate. Not only is he a dreamy, ruddy one, he's not even legitimate. Only the prophet revealed what had happened. Regardless, the whole story is very, very sketchy. And it seems like there's a pattern over here. We have these brilliant lights, these paragons, these figures of transformation. And they all begin with periods of depression. Before Joseph is made king, he has to undergo this long series of unfortunate disappointments and demotions. And when he's at the lowest point, he's in the absolute pits, he's in a literal pit, in a literal dungeon. And he had this one flicker of salvation, a hope of salvation from the butler, and the butler forgot him. There's no lower place to go. And that's when the redemption and the revelation of Joseph's light emerges. It's pitch black. And the star of Joseph bursts across the night sky. Judah, similarly, he's demoted. His wife dies. His 2 sons die. He's duped into consorting with his own daughter-in-law. And he has to admit publicly in front of the most respected and important people around, in front of his family, about what happened. And from this very low point emerges the brilliant light of Messiah. It's the exact opposite of what you would expect. And it's also very interesting. This is a deep point. It's also the opposite of our antagonists. Let's explain. You recall, of course, a few weeks ago we read about Parshas Vayeishev. Jacob, he has the dream, there's the ladder, there's the angels going up and angels going down. Who are these angels? So the Midrash tells us something fascinating. The angels are the angels of Babylon, Persia, Greece, and Edom. The angels going up and going down the ladder are the angels of the exiles. There are 4 exiles following Egypt, of course. There's the exile of Babylon, destroyed the temple, of course, brought the Jews in chains to Babylon. The exile of Persia, we know the Purim story, happened under the rule of Persia. The exile of Greece, Hanukkah story. And the final exile, the current exile, at the hands of Edom. And these are the angels going up and down the ladder, says the Midrash. And the Midrash says, the first angel went up the ladder. And after 70 rungs, came down. And that's symbolic of the fact that the Babylonian exile will be 70 years, and then it will end. And the next angel was the angel of Persia, and it went up 52 rungs, and then it came down. 52 years after the exile began, it ended. And the third angel, the Greek angel, went up 180 rungs, and then it came down. And then the fourth angel just kept going up and up and up and up and up. And the Midrash tells us that Jacob was worried, will this ever end? Will this ever cease? Will this angel ever descend? And God promised. God promised Jacob, the fourth one will also eventually drop. That's what the Midrash says. Very fascinating, very profound, very intriguing. What can we learn from this idea? So I was thinking that maybe there's a lesson. You think about climbing a ladder. One thing we know about climbing a ladder is it's something that only one person can climb up the ladder at a time. That's what it means to climb a ladder. It's like this way to go up, but you have to be worried because it could be unstable. It could be shaky. one person at a time. The definition of an exile, it's a challenge, it's a subjugation that you cannot shake yourself out of. There's nothing that you could do to free yourself from it. So maybe there's a bit of comfort knowing that there's only one such challenge, there's only one ascending angel at a time. That's one idea. Put it aside. But there's another idea. As the angel is ascending, and they reach the highest point that they'll ever reach, that's when it ends. They all fall at the peak of their power. Each rung that the angel is ascending, it's a higher level, it's more elevation, it's more power, it's more exile, more subjugation. And when they reach the top, 52, 70 runs, 180 runs, that's when they collapse. Every added step towards a greater height, towards seemingly greater invincibility, it's actually a step closer towards their eventual demise. So we see a system here by the exiles, by our antagonists, that they just ascend and then they collapse. It seems like with Joseph and Judah, it's the opposite. They go down and lower and lower and down yet further. And then when they hit the lowest point, that's when they're instantly catapulted to the highest of heights. It's a storyline in our Parsha. Joseph, we start off, he's the favorite, but he's hated, and he's hated more, and he's hated more, and they are envious of him, and they can't possibly see anything positive or redeeming about him. Should we sell him? Should we throw him into the pit? Should we kill him? He's sold. He's accused. He's imprisoned for years and years and years. And he's forgotten. There's no lower place to go. When he gets to the lowest point, that's when his light emerges. Same thing with Judah. And you have to ask the question, why can't the origin of Joseph, viceroy of Egypt, king of Egypt, why can't the story of Judah, of the Messiah, of David, why can't it be more straightforward? Why must all these stories be shrouded in scandal? Why can't they be more conventional? We have these brilliant lights of Joseph and Judah. Why can't they emerge in a more ordinary manner? A more scandal-free manner? Maybe we could suggest an idea with a nice lesson for us. Great things can only be born out of modesty. If there's something that's really great, but it's not modest, it may shine very brightly for some time, but it will not endure. Our sages tell us that we had 2 sets of tablets. The first set of tablets that was crafted and etched by God. And that lasted very short. And then we had a second set of tablets. And that is still pristinely perfect today. How come the first set of tablets were destroyed and the second set of tablets endured? So Midrash tells us the first set of tablets, there was a lot of exposure. There was a lot of publicity. A lot of eyeballs were examining it. This is the 10 Commandments, sign of revelation. Everyone's there was witnessing it. That's not a recipe for something to endure, for something to be perpetuated. There's nothing more beautiful, says the Midrash, more than modesty. If you want blessing, if you want endurance, if you want continuity, it's only when something is hidden. It's only something is invisible. There's no blessing in that is revealed, the Talmud tells us. Blessing is found only in the invisible. Joseph's ascent, it's this absolute beacon of blessing. The Messiah is this epitome of blessing. Those blessings must be hidden. must be invisible, or else they will not endure. Joseph is all about creating this enduring reality. He's the one who's going to perpetuate the world. The only way, this is a rule that we're told, the only way that there can be such a blessing is if it is hidden. Messiah is going to change the whole world, bring the whole world back to God. And that can only endure if it's hidden. So the whole storyline is one of modesty, of being covered up, of being concealed, of being shrouded in scandal. No one would ever imagine that something so luminous would emerge from Lot, his daughters, and Judah and his daughter-in-law, and Ruth and Boaz, David and Bathsheba. That's the only way that such a brilliant light can emerge. We see a pattern over here. Something so bright and so beautiful necessarily has to come out of left field. Necessarily has to emerge in the darkest of hours. And I think there's something very comforting about that. Even in times when there's no conceivable way to come up with a solution that will be good, that will be a blessing, that will be a light, that will be enduring. Someone's in a bind that's so inextricable, a quagmire that's totally hopeless. We don't know what God is planning. The Talmud tells us that you have to be very wary of the sons of the impoverished. Why? For from them Torah will emerge. Where does Torah come from? So we think it would come from the most prestigious, for the most noble, for the most upstanding. Says the Talmud, be wary of the impoverished, because that's a good place for Torah to come from. No one's looking at them. No one's examining them. No one's imagining that something great will come out of them. And of course, this does not only mean financially impoverished, it means spiritually impoverished. When there's something so completely devoid of any spark, of any scintilla of holiness, that is actually fertile grounds for something astoundingly special to emerge. A few weeks ago, we spoke about how the entire family tree of the Jewish people emerged from one person, really, from Terach. Terach, father of Abraham. Well, one of his sons is Abraham. And then Sarah came from another one of his sons. And Lot came from another one of his sons. And Milcah married the third son, Nahor, and that's where Rebekah came from, and Rachel and Leah. So the whole family came from Terach. And who was Terach? He was an idolater. The most idolatrous of all idolaters. How did something so wonderful, so bright, so pure emerge from something so impure? It's a lesson. The most brilliant stars emerge from the most unexpected and counterintuitive places. There's a lot to be pessimistic about. You examine the state of our people. You examine the state of the world. You examine your own personal state. We're not perfect. And if you really drill down to your essence, it could be scary, it could be terrifying. We know so little of the Almighty's Torah. We have such submission to the Yetzer Hara, to evil inclination, to the foreign god. If you're honest with yourself, it's hard to be optimistic about yourself. There's a lot of darkness. We have to remember that our blessings, the most absolutely great examples of our blessing, they emerge unexpectedly, unconventionally, from the most surprising and counterintuitive places. Of course, for such a light to emerge, there has to be a degree of self-sacrifice. There has to be a profile in courage. There has to be an overcoming of a great challenge, to admit when you're wrong, to resist the temptation, to conjure the image of your father as a last-ditch effort, to resist. We cannot prognosticate where those brilliant lights will emerge from. But in our Parsha, we see vivid examples of a very counterintuitive reality. Just as the exiles collapse from their greatest heights, all the way on top of the ladder, they crumble. So too, from the lowest of lows, only from the lowest of lows, do the greatest, brightest, most brilliant stars emerge. The saga of Joseph will continue next week and the week after. Next week, of course, is Hanukkah. So there's a lot of connections with Hanukkah. And you wonder maybe if what we said today has a little bit of a Hanukkah flavor to it. The idea of a brilliant light in the darkness. But we still have a lot of exciting things to cover, please God. Genesis is only 3 more Parshios. We have Miketz, Vayigash, and Vayechi. But please God, we'll have a wonderful time studying the rest of Genesis and, of course, the rest of the Torah together. From the Torch Center in Houston, Texas, my name is Yaakov Wolbe. My email address is rabbywolbe@gmail.com. Send me an email. I happen to actually have still a very, very overflowing email inbox. I hope to get it down to 0 and then to celebrate. I don't know. Maybe I'll even have a shot of whiskey. I'll be so happy. I may believe it's Purim. I don't know what I'm going to do. I'll eat an ice cream. I don't know. We'll have to do something really special because I've been in a hole. I know people, I always say I answer every email. A lot of people email me like even a month ago, even more. And they're like, oh, Rabbi, always making up a story because he has not responded to my email. It's all in the inbox. It's massive. And I feel so guilty about it, but I hope to get out of it. Not to get out of it, but to have the opportunity to respond to every important and cherished email. We'll get it. Please God. Don't give up on us quite yet. Have a wonderful day. Have a fantastic rest of your week. A magnificent, terrific, meaningful, uplifting Shabbos upcoming. And please God, with the help of the Almighty, we'll once again gather together in the Torch Center in Houston, Texas for another edition of the Parsha podcast. My email address is rabbywolbe@gmail.com.